Hello, Year 9. Hope you're all good. It was good to see most of you earlier this week for our Zoom lessons. I will see you all again next week. Obviously, some of you, I think, are going to be in school on Tuesday next week, so if you would have had a lesson then, that's probably going to be affected, but we'll deal with that when it comes. For now, let's focus on what we're doing today, which is looking a little bit more detail at the Night of the Long Knives. So we started looking at this last lesson. It is kind of the pinnacle, really, of Hitler's consolidation. You can see here we've kind of got the steps by which he consolidated his power. Starting as Chancellor in January 1933, he then increases his power gradually, firstly by using the Reichstag fire to gain that emergency decree to remove his rivals. Then we had the Enabling Act, which allowed him to pass any law he wanted. We then had that process of Gleichschaltung, where he kind of took control of local governments, trade unions, political parties, the civil service, the press. They were all brought into line. And then in summer 1934, we have the Night of the Long Knives, which is this kind of mass violent purge of the SA, amongst other people that have been identified as potential threats to Hitler's position. So as I say, we started doing that last lesson, and today we're going to find out just a little bit more about what happened and why. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is, if you go on Seneca, so you should all be signed up on there, you're all members of the various classes, we've already sorted that. Go on Seneca and you will have been set an assignment, and it'll only take you about 10 minutes hopefully, where you can just go back through and just kind of recap some of this material on Hitler's consolidation. Okay, so that's task 1. Your next task is then to have a little bit of a look in more detail at the reasons why the Night of the Long Knives happened. Okay, so just to remind you of the kind of basic events, we get to 1934, the SA has become an increasing liability, 2.5 members, they're all effectively thugs, they're a mob, there's violence on the streets, and they are also only loyal to one man, which is Ernst Röhm, one of Hitler's oldest friends. Now Hitler is becoming increasingly perturbed by this, and Röhm starts to kind of make things worse because he starts to make demands that, for instance, the Nazi Party merges the army with the SA, so the SA take over the army. Obviously that's a problem because the army leaders won't like that. Okay, and also not only that, it would give Röhm more power. Hitler needs to keep the army leaders on his side because, he wants to sort of take more land and expand, so he's going to need the army to do that. And on top of that, we also have Röhm starting to say, so he's more of a sort of left-wing Nazi, really, and what he supports is the socialist part of National Socialism. And what he wants to happen is he wants them to continue with the revolution. He thinks it's not done yet. He wants to take all the businesses and land off the industrialists and wealthy landowners and redistribute it to the workers. Now obviously that's a little bit communist, and it's also something that Hitler really cannot allow because that's going to upset all of the businessmen who fund him. So Röhm is starting to make some pretty dangerous statements, and he is not helped by the fact that within the Nazi Party there is this process of divide and rule, so whereby all of the major figures within the party all kind of are played off against each other. So Goering, Himmler, Goebbels, they all kind of dislike each other because they all fight for power. And the person they dislike most of all is Röhm, because he is such a threat, because he has all of this power. So what Hitler does is, in a single night, the 30th of June 1934, he calls the SA to a place called Weissei in Bavaria, a lovely little seaside town, and he has them all murdered in a single night. Now Hitler only admits to about 77 murders, but it's probably more like 400. For months afterwards they're finding bodies in forests and things like that, so it's a mass purge. Okay, and that's not only members of the SA and Röhm, it's also various other people that Hitler has identified as a rival, so someone like von Schleicher, who was a previous chancellor. So Hitler removes them all. It causes the SA to be kind of subdued. The SS under Himmler takes precedence, and Hitler confirms in a speech, he says this has happened, and he says, now I am the supreme judge of the German people. Alright, so he basically said, yeah, they didn't get a trial, but that doesn't matter because I thought they were wrong and I get to choose. Okay, so it's a big step towards Hitler admitting publicly that he intends to rule as a dictator. So your second task today is to look at why this took place. Okay, so it is a very important event. And what you've got is a table that looks like this. Okay, you've got 8 sources to look through, which we'll look at in just a second. Okay, and for each one, you have to summarise what the source says and then tick which reason it supports. Okay, so it's basically 4 reasons the night of the long knife happens. Okay, it's Hitler personally being a very paranoid figure. It's the fact that those key individuals within the Nazi party, so Himmler and Goering and co, they all argue with each other. There's Röhm himself, what he does wrong, and there's the views of the army, being a bit annoyed about Röhm. Sorry, it's my cat. So you've got 8 sources here to look at to do this. So you've got Röhm himself saying Hitler can't walk all over me. I've got 3 million men. I can do what I want. You've got the army, so a commander saying he's told that an SA attack is coming and he should be ready. The SA are told that the army are coming, so they're basically being played off against each other by Himmler. We've got Albert Speer, who is one of Hitler's architects, so quite close to him, saying that Hitler kind of is all very excitable, saying that he's kind of saved the country by murdering these men. Okay, whether that's true or not. Here, talking about why the SA was dangerous. Okay, the fact it threatens the army, it threatens the landowners, it threatens the industrialists. This is a newspaper from the time, okay, from Britain. This is Goering explaining what happened. This is Röhm again, where he calls Hitler a swine, like a pig. Okay, saying his old friends aren't good enough for him. Then got Hitler's architect again, talking about the different factions within the Nazi party. So a faction is kind of like a team, like a group. So it's basically saying that within the Nazi party, you've got lots of different little mini teams. You've got Himmler and his lot, Goering and his lot. And it's just talking about how the fact they all kind of disliked each other. And then finally, this is Röhm winding up the army leaders by telling them he wants to take over the army. Okay, so you're going to read each source carefully. You're going to summarise in this box what the source says, and then you're going to tick which reason or reasons, because it might be more than one, it gives for the events of the Night of the Long Knives. Okay. When you've done that, the last thing you're going to do is you've got a little cartoon to analyse. Okay, so this is the cartoon. It's called, the caption is "They salute with both hands now." Again, it was published at the time, fairly close to after the events actually happened. So what you've got is you've got a sheet that looks like this, and it's going to help you to analyse this cartoon. So the first thing you've got to do is identify who all the different figures are. Okay, this is presumably Hitler, and you probably can't read it, but if you just look on his arm, the swastika is labelled the double cross. Okay, so that's Hitler. Okay, can we recognise these two? Have a look. Do they look like anyone we know? This little guy, big nose, Goebbels, maybe. Goering, big fat man in a sort of fancy uniform. Goering famously designed his own uniform and it was very flamboyant. Okay, we've got people marching in the back. Who could that be? Perhaps the army. These guys in there, you wouldn't can't really see, but they would be in brown shirts. Okay, and there's some dead bodies here. Who might that be? Okay, so label who everyone is. Then you've got a couple of questions. So how is each figure shown? So how does Goebbels look here? How does Goering look here? How are the SA shown here with both their hands in the air? All right, and obviously the joke is that previously they would salute with one hand, they would do their Nazi salutes, but now they salute with both hands because they've got their hands in the air like they're surrendering, like you do when someone's aiming a gun at you. Okay, and then you've got a question here. What do you think David Lowe's view? So David Lowe's the cartoonist. What do you think he thinks of Hitler and the party? And then what do you think he is suggesting about why this happened? Okay, so those are things for you to think about. Okay, so in terms of why it happened, well, look, the army are in the background. What role do you think these two might have had? The fact they're kind of either side of Hitler. All right, do you think it's suggesting perhaps they did something here? Does Hitler look like a strong leader? Does he look like a good leader, like a sort of statesman? Or does he look a bit sort of, like a gangster? How are the Nazi party coming across here? Do they look like legitimate, valid politicians, or are they shown in a negative way? So when you've done that, you're going to complete that sheet, and then that is all of your work for today. So if you get stuck, guys, please just let me know. Obviously, drop me an email or something, and I'll be very happy to help you. Okay. And I will see you all next week for the final week of the year, which is obviously very exciting, but we've got a little way to go just yet. Final push. All right, guys, speak to you soon.